Val, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Well, you know what? We've known each other virtually for quite a while, and funny we should say virtually, since that's kind of your business. Uh, I've heard you speak at seven-figure flipping, events, and we've connected through the internet, and even done some business together. But
Mhm.
you have made a business out of lighting the burden of other people's businesses through hiring and training VAs.
Mhm.
Tell me first, who who could benefit from hiring a virtual assistant?
That's a very good question. The answer is who doesn't benefit from that? Really, if you are an entrepreneur, you are a big bottleneck in your business. Because what happens if you need to take a day off? What happens if you need to stop working, or if you want to spend time with the family? If you stop working, does the business stop working? Is your business a machine that can function without you? Are you still the most important person in your business? You have to be the least important person in your business. So that's when you need to hire VAs. VAs are good for people who experience burnout, for people who are not experts in some fields, and instead of delegating tasks to virtual assistants, they try to do everything on their own, which is wrong because you as an entrepreneur, you have your genius zone, you have your creative zone. That's what you need to focus on and delegate the routine tasks, the admin tasks, the repetitive stuff to someone else. It doesn't have to be a virtual assistant. It can be someone local. The idea is you have to let other people come into your business and help you. The virtual assistants are great because you have access to a big pool of talent worldwide and they are more cost effective. So that's why I believe in this idea. I have a company that's entirely run on virtual assistants. So that's my business.
What are some of the things, some of the tasks, the responsibilities that virtual assistants can do for you, me,
Hmm.
anyone?
Yeah. Let's take, I mean, I know you from a real estate mastermind, so I can speak for, I'm not sure if your listeners are primarily in real estate. I will address both real estate and general tasks that VA can do. So in real estate, of course, you have lead generation, which is your cold callers or people who answer the phone. That's what I did when I started in real estate. I was the person answering the phone and I was working from home, right? And so I'm training other VAs how to do the same thing. We even have virtual assistants who do acquisitions. They actually sign contracts over the phone, being in a completely different part of the world. So in real estate, VAs can also help in transactions, with dispositions, really anything that can be done on a computer or on a phone, it can be done from anywhere in the world. Now, in the general business, virtual assistants can help with email management, calendar management. They can make sure you're not double booked. They can even set up doctor appointments or personal appointments or manage your travel. And we actually have a very good training program for executive assistants in that regard. But again, this is your second brain. This is your assistant. They can help you with anything. So my rule is simple. If it can be done on a computer, it can be done from anywhere.
I think it was we were both on the Better Life podcast with Brandon
Yes.
Turner, and you were on just before I went out there. And I remember, I think it was one of the last things you said to him was something to remember or a piece of advice. No one's coming to help you,
Hmm.
and it seems almost ironic that someone who hires and trains people to help would say something like that. What do you mean by no one's coming to help you? No one's coming.
Right. So there are people who can help you. right? I am very grateful for the people that I have in my network. I'm very grateful for the company I used to work for the opportunities that were brought to me because of the company I worked for. That's how I got connected to you, right? So I'm very grateful for that. There are people who will help you, but you can't expect people to help. You have to put in the work. You have to take ownership of what is given to you. So when I said no one is coming, is don't expect others to save you. People will offer you opportunities. They will open doors, but you have to do the walking. You have to walk through that. You have to put in the work. You don't expect others to save you or to solve problems for you or to just magically make your life easier. You work in tandem, you work together. And I think that's exactly what I'm doing for virtual assistants. I'm giving them opportunities. I'm opening doors because I worked as a virtual assistant myself. And I'm grateful for what I had. I want to give the same to the virtual assistants around the world. But it is up to them to prove themselves, to do the work, to bring value,
Mm-hmm.
to make themselves memorable, I cannot control this. I can just show them what I did and guide them through that process.
You mentioned just earlier that you aren't from around here. Where's that accent that's a little further east than New Jersey, isn't it?
Just a tad. Yeah, I am from Eastern Europe. I'm from Moldova. It's a very small country. I don't think even people in my network, have even heard of this country before meeting me. So it's teeny tiny, small. No, it's not the Maldives with all the beautiful beaches and no, I wish, but no, it's not. It is a small country between Romania and Ukraine. So it used to be a former Soviet Union country, and then it got its independence in the early 90s. And we speak both Romanian and Russian in my country. Russian because it was part of the Soviet Union, obviously, but Romanian is my native language.
That's interesting. Because you're actually the second person from Moldova that I've interviewed on the show.
Really?
Yeah.
On the show?
Yeah,
Wow.
an otherwise obscure country from my perspective. Uh, yeah, but Georgian Benta from the Gratitude Podcast was on the show months ago, and I am familiar with the country, its location, and a little bit about um, why somebody might want to leave there for other opportunities in the United States. So that also leads me to asking what were the opportunities you were looking for? Why did you come to the United States? And
Hmm.
tell me a little bit more about this story.
Absolutely. So I've always wanted to come to the States, even when I was in elementary school, when I started taking English. So we learn a foreign language starting second grade. So when I was 7 years old in second grade, and I had to pick which language to choose. We had to pick between English and French. And I initially chose to study French. The reason for that was because both my parents studied French. When my parents were in school, because of the Soviet Union, no one was allowed to take English, obviously, because of the Cold War. So when I was in school, there was no more Cold War. And I decided to take French because I thought it would be easier. My parents can help me. I didn't know that I would be good at foreign languages. So I go home, I tell my parents, I had to choose between English and French. I chose French. My dad was like, absolutely not. You go back tomorrow and you switch to English because that's going to open doors for you. That will give you opportunities. At that time, when I was 7, I did not know what he meant by that. I was like, what do you mean? If I have any difficulties with a foreign language, you guys can help me because you took French in school. He's like, no, you're going to go and take English. So I took English as a second language, and I loved it. And the more I studied the language, the more I learned about the culture, the more I watched American movies, American songs as I was growing up. And as we were not in the Soviet Union anymore, we had access to American movies, American pop culture. I was a huge Backstreet Boys fan when I was a teenager, you know. So all of this really made me want to come to the United States and actually experience that. My parents never had the opportunity to send me anywhere, not even in my own country, to go to a different city to see some locations. I was growing up we had a very poor financial situation, right? We grew up poor. I don't like to say it, but it is what it is. And I think it's part of my character, what built my character. So I could not even dream about what it would, I couldn't envision what it would look like to go to the United States. I didn't know how it would become possible. So I found out later that there's a program you can apply to. It's sponsored by U.S. Department of State. And I can be an exchange student in the United States. So I applied and I was rejected. I applied again the next year and I was rejected. And the third year when I applied, I was finally selected and I was an exchange student. I lived with a great host family in Raleigh, North Carolina in the early 2000s. And I think that just really opened a lot of opportunities for me, a lot of doors, because I could see what life in the States can be like. And I understood there is a better life out there than what I can have in my country. So I wanted to come back. I applied to go to college here. I applied to 14 colleges. Most of them said no. There was one college that gave me full ride scholarship, which I took with both hands. My parents could not afford to send me to college in the United States. So I came here, I graduated cum laude. And then when I went back, I kept applying to something that's called a green card lottery or diversity visa. And I kept applying year after year after year, and I got rejection, rejection, rejection. I applied for 13 years without stopping, until finally we open the email and we see this message: congratulations, you were selected. So, and it is a lottery. You can't influence it. You can't impact, So my husband and I, we looked at each other and said, what do we do? Do we take this chance? Do we go to the United States and leave everything behind? And he said, yes. Yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to take the risk. I don't know what's going to wait for us there. Because, so we had, our daughter was 1 year old at the time, our oldest. So we left everything behind and we came to the United States. And we said, we will give each other 1 year. And if we're not happy here, we will go back. 1 year. And 5 years later, here we are, happy, thriving. This was one of the best decisions we made in our life.
Wow. And where did you go? Yeah, when you first landed in the United States, where did you settle into?
I went to Pensacola, Florida. One of my sisters lived there at the time. So there is actually a community of Moldovans in Pensacola. So I thought, we're going to go to a place where there's a community of people from my country, because they can help us with a job if necessary. Mm-hmm. When we came here, I had no idea what we're going to do. We didn't have a job. We didn't have a place to stay. We didn't have a car. We didn't have. And it's different when you come here as an exchange student, or even when you come here for college, because you know where you're going to stay. Your meals will be provided. There's a system taking care of you. And when you come here on your own, you're on your own. So the green card lottery gives you access to come to the States, but that's it. Like, it doesn't give you anything else. So we went to Pensacola to be with people from my country in case that was our safety net, you know. But luckily, I found a job working from home for a real estate company, which was an answer to a lot of our prayers. So um, it was, again, one of those very lucky decisions, a lot of those very good opportunities that got us to where we are now. I couldn't be more thankful.
Well, it's incredible. And that must have been terrifying, but exciting at the same time.
Hmm.
So you started as a cold caller for real estate,
Hmm.
and you found you had a knack for it. Uh, what made what do you think attributed to your success as a cold caller, and then how did you make that leap from uh, employee, so to speak, to small business owner, and entrepreneur
Yeah,
yourself?
absolutely. So, yes, when I started working, I was the person answering the phone, and I wasn't very good at it initially because I never had experience in real estate. I didn't know a lot of words. I remember I had a seller on the phone who said, it's a mother-in-law suite, and I thought his mother-in-law lives there, and he started laughing. It's like, no, ma'am, that's not what it means. So I did not know a lot of expressions. I didn't know a lot of terms. I was actually very surprised that I was hired to work for a real estate company. The COO of the company, he said, this is a skill that can be trained. I see something in you, and we need that personality. I see determination, I see assertiveness. That's what we're looking for. So I wasn't great from the beginning, but I was very hungry. I wanted to prove myself. I needed a job. I don't want to let people down. That's part of who I am. People trusted me. I need to make sure that they bet on the right horse, so to speak, right? So I learned everything I can about real estate. I learned how to I learned sales, psychology, how to connect with people, how to build rapport, and this attributed to my success. I was seeking out opportunities to learn more. I talked to our acquisition rep. I said, teach me how you talk to people on the phone. I analyzed a ton of calls. I analyzed my calls, as cringy as it was to listen to your own voice on the phone, and the mistakes you make. I did that. And at some point, my because of my success, I was able to speak on stages. I was able to teach others on how to qualify leads properly on the phone.
Mhm.
And a lot of people approached me and said that they would love for me to coach their teams. And I said, I don't know if I have the capacity to do this, but I can find another person like me who will be dedicated to you. I can clone myself basically and find you a person like me who will come into your business and will do what I did. So that's what made the change for me to go from an employee to an employer. And I've always been an employer. I had my own company before in my country. So I've always been an employer at heart. And at some point, being here in the States, I said, I risked so much to get here. I have to grow. I have to step out of my comfort zone. So that's just who I am. And I saw the need that real estate investors had, and I knew how to take care of that need. So that's what made me build my company. I was a virtual assistant. I'm an employer now. I understand both sides very well. I know what's keeping both sides up at night. So I wanted to create this company that solves both problems.
That takes an incredible amount of fortitude, courage, and a whole lot of hard work to get from a few $100s in your pocket to becoming a successful employee and then a successful entrepreneur.
Hmm.
Uh, I think it was Diego Corso said he calls it the immigrant advantage, and
Hmm.
uh, uh, I think I've also heard friends call it the adversity advantage. Why is it that people who immigrate to the United States, they tend to have maybe it's a stronger work ethic, or maybe
Hmm.
it's a little more gratitude for the opportunity. But
Hmm.
what are your thoughts on that?
It is gratitude for the opportunity, but I think the answer is something else. And I noticed this even in my country. It's not just immigrant to another country, but I've noticed. So I was born in the capital of my country, right? And I noticed that people come from rural areas that come to the capital. They're typically more successful than those who were actually born in the capital. The reason for that, I think it's because when you go to a place with more opportunities, your mind is fixated on finding those opportunities. It's a mindset thing. It is gratitude, but it's a mostly mindset. When I came to the United States, this is the land of opportunities. This is what I was telling myself. This is what my mind was thinking. This is what my subconscious is thinking. So obviously, because it's the land of opportunities, everywhere I look, I can identify opportunities. As opposed to if you're already here, you don't perceive it as the land of opportunity, for not necessarily, and you're not necessarily seeking out opportunities because you're so used to your own climate, you're so used to your own environment that you have to go through that change to really want it. So that's what I thought it was. When I came here, both me and my husband, we had so many ideas, like we could do this, we could do that, that's an opportunity, this is an opportunity. So this, and we could see them because our minds were fixated on that.
When you're facing that adversity, and you're used to surviving, even succeeding with that status of adversity, that's your normal. Then when your frame of mind expands and you have more opportunities, you recognize them
Yep.
more easily. You jump on it a little bit more, quickly than others that may not, that see the opportunities or may have them around but don't recognize them right away.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get a little bit more into the details. So you said uh, you were looking for others to clone and turn into virtual assistants. Where do you find these virtual assistants?
Everywhere. We run ads all over the world, but we have identified certain countries that usually work better. And they are the Philippines, of course, great working with Filipinos. Also, we work with people from Egypt, from Latin America. I even have virtual assistants on my team from India, from Bangladesh. We have from Pakistan. It's really all over the world. We are present and we run ads. And in some countries, we actually have boots on the ground, people who uh, outsource, people who find other virtual assistants for us. And we take them through a very, very, very thorough screening process. And we only accept about 1%, maybe 2% of people sometimes. It depends on the flux of people we have. So we're very picky. We reject 98, 99% of people. So we're picky about who we accept as a virtual assistant. And even though virtual assistants pay usually goes, I don't know, anywhere between 5, 7, $10 an hour sometimes, right? But even $5 an hour goes a long way in certain countries. So you will have a lot of people applying. Just because this is a competitive salary for them, it doesn't mean they have the necessary skill set. A lot of people are competing for these jobs, but it doesn't mean they're necessarily good. So that's why we have a very thorough screening process to identify the best of the best.
Those wages there, the hourly rates. Yeah, a lot of people in the United States would be aghast, right? They would say $5, $6, $7 an hour to do work that somebody over here in the United States would be. would be doing for 17, 20, $25 an hour.
Right.
Why would you pay them that? Why wouldn't you pay them the same rates, the same wages you would someone from the U.S.?
Great question. So I come from Moldova, right? And before I moved to the States, which was 2018, late 2018, I would have, I'm thinking about this. Would I have worked for $5 an hour when I was home? And the answer is absolutely yes, I would have. Because here's why. How much do you pay in rent here in the United States? What is it, $2,000? 3,000? Some houses in our area go for 3,000 a month in rent, which is insane. When we moved to the States, it was about 1,500, but it's still a big amount of money. In my country, rent is about $200, $150. No, so the expenses are not the same everywhere in the world. So that's what I'm saying. $5 here is not the same as $5 somewhere else. When I was in my country, if I made $5 an hour, or let's say about $800, $1,000 a month, that would have been enough to cover my rent, to buy groceries, for me not to worry, and I get to work from home. So it would have been a good opportunity. Now, the economy is not the same as it was in 2018. Okay, so now you'd probably see the sweet spot of VAs, maybe 6, 7 an hour, or they adjust their rates as well. But it is still significantly less than what you get in the United States for equally good talent. They're very talented people worldwide, amazing talent worldwide, but they happen to have less expenses. For them, the amount that they get paid in the US is a lot more. So let me give you an example. We work with someone from our company, a virtual assistant who is doing our SEO. Okay. We recently hired him. He is working part-time for us, which is a very good amount of money we're paying him, works for us really well. He says he would love to work with us full-time because what we're paying him is significantly more than what he gets locally in his country, in India. So again, that's just to say how grateful, and he's at about five and a half dollars, $5.50 an hour or something like that right now with us. And he says he would love to work with us full time because this is more than what he's getting locally. So this is just to tell you what a difference it is in opportunities for them to work on the US market and working locally, and how much further their dollars can stretch them being in their home countries. And they're grateful for the opportunity. And this person that we hired, he is phenomenal. He's completely like, I expect, we just recently hired him, but I expect a lot of changes in our SEO, the blogs he's submitting, the changes he makes. He's so talented, so talented. So just kind of to give you an answer, how much it means for them, even if they're at 5 or 6, and how big of a difference it makes in Americans' minds, this, the pay structure.
Mm-hmm. There's also, on the flip side, there is incentive for taking on more tasks, responsibilities, for promotion. If the wages are too high, they're too comfortable, there may not be that incentive to aspire to, doing more for you.
That's true. And also I want to add here, because we hire so many virtual assistants, we ask them, what would you like to be paid? We don't dictate the prices. They actually tell us, I would like 5 an hour or 6 an hour, and then when we hire VAs for different companies, we show this information to potentially our clients. We never charge anything on top of what the VA wants. This is not our business model. So the VA gets fully what they asked for. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes we have VAs that ask for $10 an hour or 8 an hour. And when we look at their credentials and what they do, just because they ask for more money, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is a good investment, because we have seen people who wanted 10 an hour and they're not better than the ones who are at 5. And because we're an agency, we see so many cases, and my team already knows, okay, look, if you work with us, this is typically what you would see for the results you want. Okay. So we help entrepreneurs that way, because a lot of Americans would feel okay paying more, but they don't get the results they look for because, maybe they didn't screen that they think more expensive equals better quality, which is not always true. Sometimes it can be, but it's not always true.
You were talking about what kind of tasks or responsibilities uh, to give to the VA. And, for me, of course, we talked a little bit about this offline, but uh, even before my blindness, I was really terrible about the details. I'm,
Mm-hmm.
forgive the irony here, a visionary type person. I
Mm-hmm.
like to dream. I like to, bring others on board, and I like to start the fire and then give it to somebody else to handle. Uh, but
Me too.
I love concocting these fantastic ideas, and also like this guy with shiny object syndrome. But even the idea of hiring a VA to help as a personal assistant, or to help with podcast production, or the cold calling is it sounds like an incredible thing. There are so many different things that I can think of, tasks to give a VA or
Mm-hmm.
multiple VAs. But even the idea of coming up with a list or training the VA to do those tasks seems daunting, and another reason to procrastinate. So
Mm-hmm.
how do we do that handoff? How do we do it? You hire and train the VA.
Good, good. So I am a visionary myself. I know exactly what you mean by not being a detailed person. I am not a detailed person myself, and my team knows that. So when I hire people from my team, I tell them, uh, tell me the big picture. Don't tell me how to get it done, because you'll lose me in the details. I'll just show you what I want, but you figure out the details. That's why I always say that I don't delegate tasks to a VA, I delegate responsibilities.
Mm.
Because when you delegate tasks, you will always be thinking about, okay, I'm done with my task, what's my next task, right? You'll always be thinking what to give them. As opposed to when you delegate responsibilities, you know what you have to do. However you do it, it's up to you. That's the result I want. Okay. So, and a lot of entrepreneurs are like that. They're visionaries, they're dreamers, they are not necessarily detail oriented. And that's where VAs come in. Find someone who loves details, find someone who's an expert in this, who has the patience to go over details. I don't have to be an expert in everything. I don't know the first thing about podcasting, but I have a team who's taking care of my podcast, because I have a podcast too built with VAs, right? So it's my team takes care of video editing, of writing description, of making reels, of social media posting. They do all of that, not me. So find someone who loves to do what you're not good at.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. Number two, I'm going to make it easier for your audience. I'm actually going to share with you 100 plus tasks a VA can do for you. So maybe some people can find some ideas. I should rename it to 100 plus responsibilities because, because of what I just said. But I will leave this file with you so your audience can have access to this. And we have a ton of free resources to help entrepreneurs get over this fear. We have a delegation workshop, a workshop that's going to walk you step by step how and what to delegate, what needs to be off your plate first, second, third, and so on. So, what priority, who gets to do it. So, all of this, I'm giving the SOPs, the VA contract, how to delegate, what to delegate. There's literally so much things that I'm giving absolutely for free to busy entrepreneurs, because I believe that working with the VA is a very good thing for the business, and it's a very good thing for your profit margin, for your sanity, for for everything. So, and to make it easier for entrepreneurs, I'm readily sharing all of these resources. So maybe that will help answer your question. Like, there is no need to be afraid, because especially when we work together, we will hold your hand, and we'll already give. If you don't want to work with us, that's okay as well, but take advantage of the free resources we give. So that's all.
Is there a particular favorite system for, say, communicating with VA? Like, I can't imagine sending emails, just cluttering the, but say, get in sync with a virtual assistant and using WhatsApp, Slack, some of the
Hmm.
method. Uh,
Hmm.
is that is that is there a best practice there, or is that really unique to each situation?
No, it's actually a very, very good practice. We use something like Slack. We used to have Slack before, but as our team grew, Slack became more expensive, so we
Mhm.
found free alternatives, which is WhatsApp, or what we use is Viber in our company. It's the same principle. You can communicate one to one, you can make phone calls to each other, you can create groups. Um, you can create private and public groups like in Slack, but I mean, it's now no big deal. You can create as many groups as you want. But this is what we use, and we have different channels. We have one that is for our staff members. Everybody in the morning, we say, "Hey, good morning," when they clock in, when they clock out, when they send the daily reports. So we have a way of communicating. We share. Let's say when it was Father's Day, we shared a picture with us and our dads and our favorite memory, and so the reason I like to communicate, to have this platform of communication, it's not because of how easy it is to communicate, but also because it can strengthen the relationship between you and the team. Email is cold, but when you have something like Slack or like Viber or like WhatsApp, you can just wish each other Happy Easter, Merry Christmas, and send different pictures to each other. It's a much better opportunity to connect with your team and foster your VA's loyalty. So this is a very good communication way.
Are there often cultural differences and difficulties? I remember the first time we ever hired a VA was for our fudge company, and we wanted somebody to help us with the marketing and start creating more social media. And we found ourselves catching little odd, cultural differences. I remember one post. It was suggested that fudge was everybody's favorite breakfast treat. And well, I was like, oh no, we gotta wait. Why not? But the post itself, it was pretty obvious that it was not written by anybody who's familiar with fudge or
Mm,
American breakfast or even English all that much. So,
yeah.
maybe that was a poor hire for a social media manager. But uh, what about with, say, copywriting or even email generation? Again, there are so many different uh, avenues you could take with this, but what do you say to the cultural difficulties?
Oh, great question. Cultural differences is present. This is an aspect for sure. But when you hire someone, put them to a little test before you hire someone. I would just have them write a sample. I'm not asking for the VA to write a whole article for me, but maybe a social media post and a description, just something for me to gauge their expertise, or to understand how good of an expert they are. We never hire anyone without a little test. So that's number one. Not only do we screen people very well, but also we have a test. So I would have recommended to maybe run a little test before hiring that VA. I'm not sure if that VA would have passed our screening criteria of 1 or 2% that we end up accepting. But also another thing is probably one of the most difficult positions we have to hire for is copywriting. As of right now, and it's because, again, copywriting is not just knowledge of English, it's also psychology, it's also sales, it's also knowing the local market. So I would hire someone who has extensive experience working on the US market. That's number one thing I would look at. And number two, I would definitely put them to a test, have them write a paragraph or something, or a description, not a whole article. I don't want to use anyone's work for free. That's not what I do, but just give me a little bit of a sample of what you can do and see if it's aligned with what we think. Or if you have clear guidelines, or if you have examples of what you like, you can present those to the VA as well. But copywriting so far has been one of those positions that, at least to our standard, we have not found anyone that can write copywriting to what I think is good, to what I think is good for the American market. And I have very high standards. But with this person that we just hired for SEO, he is starting to change my belief about that. It's too early to tell yet because we just hired him. But, I'll update you in 2 or 3 months and see how it's going. But so far, what I see from his blogs, he gets it, And so that's probably one thing. Maybe the VA can do a lot of research on competitors. They don't have to know about fudge as much, but can they do their research? Are they resourceful? Do they have that critical thinking to understand what you need? They don't have to be an expert on the American culture, but nowadays, with everything at our fingertips, there are ways to work around it.
What about the security fear? There are a lot of things when it comes to personal life, business, your bank accounts, credit cards, contracts, social security numbers, that kind of thing. And how does one secure against fraud or identity theft?
It's not any different than what you would than when you would hire someone in the US. I mean, can someone locally here steal your identity or, put you in bad situations? Absolutely. The only difference here when you hire someone locally in the US is because you can have a contract with them. You can sue them, right? You have an NDA. You have all of these protections in place. When you hire someone internationally, the laws of the United States don't apply there. So technically, you can't force someone to, not disclose any information. But integrity-wise, this is not just a VA issue. This can happen with anyone. You work with contractors. Can they have compromised integrity? Absolutely. You work with someone local that you hire in your office. Can they steal your information? Absolutely. So it's not just virtual assistants. There are tools that you can use to secure yourself from that. One of those tools is we use LastPass. So LastPass is when we give access to our VAs, we never share any passwords with them. We just give them access to LastPass. The way it works is it obscures the password. You give them access, but they never know what your password is. It obscures the password, but they only have access. And you get to choose what they have access to. So if someone leaves your company or you have to let someone go, you restrict access, but you don't have to change all the passwords, or you're not worried that, they can log in later and so on. So that's one way you can do it. Another thing you can do is if you use QuickBooks, there is a way to also obscure some personal information, some bank information. But even so, I would not trust a person I don't know or I'm just hiring with bank information. I would have to work with that person for some time to know I can trust them before I share my more personal details. The third thing is email. A lot of people say, how can my VA manage my personal email when I have access to my bank accounts and all of this? And even Gmail has a tool that you can give them partial access to only a couple of emails and not your bank information. For example, I can gladly talk about this, but it's like a Kanban feature. You only give access to the VA in one area, one types of emails that they can forward or respond to, and so on. So anything that's personal, they don't see that. There are a lot of tools, and I think, especially after the pandemic, after COVID, um, remote work is becoming more predominant, and there are more and more tools being put in place now for remote work to be efficient and effective. So there are probably a lot of other tools I'm not familiar with, but so far we use LastPass and QuickBooks, and even Gmail has a lot of these opportunities to secure your information.
I really love the example. What was it? Tim Ferriss's book, For How Work We, which is a bit dated now, but he talks about the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule.
Yes.
And I think it's a great example or a great way to illustrate the benefits of hiring a VA. Because would you rather be doing what would in the United States be the $15 or $20 tasks when you should be focusing on the $500 and $1,000 an hour tasks?
Yes.
So how does one break up those responsibilities? How do you determine which tasks or responsibilities are given to the VA, and like for an entrepreneur who needs a little bit extra help, organizing and less procrastination, who do you recommend as the first hire? Say like a personal assistant.
Great question. I will definitely make sure to leave a link to my delegation workshop because it addresses all of these questions and more. It also looks at what's stopping you from trusting someone else to take care of your tasks. You find out more about yourself as a leader, what fears you have, what's your resistance to delegating. And also it addresses the exact questions you mentioned. What needs to be taken off your plate first and second and third and so on, and who needs to be doing those. But I would say the number one first hire that you should probably do is, first of all, understand your workday. Write a whole list of everything you have to do. And then what is generating you income and what's not generating you so much income, what is repetitive and what is urgent. And I have all of this in my delegation workshop. I even have this spreadsheet that you put all the tasks and you select, this is generating revenue, this is not generating revenue, or this is important, or this is urgent. And then it automatically just spits out the answer. Delegate this, you take care of that. You delegate this, you take care of this task. It's automated. It does it for you. So if anyone listening, you have to check it out. I will leave the link. I'll share the link. But take care of those tasks that are delegate. The number one person you hire is delegate repeatable tasks, especially if they're revenue generating. Or you can delegate tasks that is holding you back from generating more revenue because you're doing the busy work rather than the productive work. Of course, like for example, what I did in real estate, in the real estate company, I was the person qualifying leads. I had to speak with a lot of people to find 2, 3, 4 qualified leads per day, make 4 appointments. Imagine if the owner of the company had to spend all of his day, just to find 4 qualified leads per day. No, his genius zone is growing the company so everybody has work. With those 4 qualified leads, the acquisition rep should focus on closing those leads. Okay, imagine the acquisition having to spend the whole day talking to people and then have the energy to close those leads. That's not how it works. So repeatable tasks that is stopping you from generating revenue, delegate that. Or a repeatable task that is generating revenue. So yeah, more details in the workshop.
It sounds awesome. And I really appreciate kind of sharing all about your story and the benefits of virtual assistants. What's next for you and higher trained VAs? What's on the horizon?
Okay, I think, I'm not sure if it's just me, but it's breaking out a little bit, the sound. But I think the question is what's next for the company. What's next for us is we want to help a lot more entrepreneurs. We want to help 500 entrepreneurs reach their goals. We have a lot of success stories. We want to replicate that. We want to have more people that have these results than the ones we have already produced. So we want to help entrepreneurs. We want people to be successful. Being an entrepreneur is not easy. You work around the clock. It's stressful. It's daunting. You don't have time to spend with your family. I've been there. I'm trying to break out of this cycle, and I can do it. I'm not 100% there yet, but I'm doing it. But I work with companies who have achieved that because they made the right hires and they hire VAs through us and all of that. So it's possible. And we want to help more people find this balance. And so that's why what's next for us is we want to be known as the #1 go-to company when it comes to hiring virtual assistants. So we have to be present on social media. We want to bring value and everything. Like I said, we have a ton of free resources because we want to help people and because we want to bring value. So we will continue putting out good information, showing how this works, addressing questions, addressing concerns. We want to, I believe in this. I really, truly believe in this. And I have seen hundreds of companies succeed with that. I want more people to have that success.
Given your business results, I have no doubt you're going to reach all of those goals. If somebody wants to find out more, where do they find you?
I'm very easy to find. Well, #1 on our website, hiretrainva.com. We made the name of the company very simple. Like we hire and we train virtual assistants. So hiretrainva.com. Also on YouTube, Valentina Brega is my full name. On Facebook, on Instagram, again, my name, Valentina Brega. And we talk. This is probably the easiest way you can get in touch with me.
Terrific. We'll put that in the show notes. Valentina, I really appreciate you coming on, sharing your story. It's been fantastic. And we'll be in touch about me hiring a VA here soon. Anyways, thank you again, and I'll talk soon.
My pleasure being here. Thank you so much for having me. And I love what you're doing. And I love seeing you at events. And thank you for having me here. I look forward to seeing you at the next event soon.